Jake woke up to 15 missed calls from an unknown number. His wife, Kate, said she was on her way to visit her sister in Atlanta. But the voice on the answering machine said she was in intensive care in Seattle after a mysterious accident. Why did she lie? And what's behind her secret life? Jake decided to find out the truth and take revenge. Jake Miller, a 35-year-old structural engineer from Chicago, jolted awake to the insistent buzz of his phone on the nightstand. The clock glowed 6:47 a.m., a gray Saturday morning light seeping through the blinds of his suburban home. He rubbed his eyes, groggy from a late night tweaking blueprints, and squinted at the screen. 15 missed calls and 12 voicemails, all from a number with a 206 area code. Seattle. His stomach twisted. He didn't know anyone in Seattle. His wife, Kate, had left yesterday for Atlanta, supposedly visiting her sister Lauren for a long weekend. After months of dodging Chinese robocall scams, Jake had set his phone to shunt unknown numbers straight to voicemail. Usually, those Shanghai Shirley bots didn't leave messages. But these did. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the voicemail icon. Their two kids, Ethan, 7, and Mia, 5, were still asleep down the hall, the house quiet except for the hum of the furnace. Kate had been acting off lately, distracted, snappy, always on her phone. He'd chalked it up to stress. She was a freelance graphic designer, juggling deadlines. "I just need a break," she'd said, kissing him goodbye at the door yesterday, her suitcase already packed. "Lauren's been begging me to visit." He believed her. Why wouldn't he? They'd been married 8 years, built a life together. Sure, things weren't perfect, but whose marriage was? Jake tapped the first voicemail and pressed the phone to his ear. A woman's voice, clipped and professional. "Mr. Miller, this is Dr. Samantha Reyes from Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. I'm calling about your wife, Kate Miller. She's been admitted to our trauma ICU following an incident early this morning. Please call us back at..." The message cut off. His heart slammed against his ribcage. Seattle? Trauma ICU? What the hell was Kate doing in Seattle? He played the next one. "Mr. Miller, this is Nurse Carla from Harborview. Your wife is in critical condition, burns and smoke inhalation. We need to speak with you urgently." Burns? Smoke inhalation? His mind raced, a jumble of confusion and dread. He scrolled through his notifications, hands trembling. A news alert from his phone's feed caught his eye, one he'd ignored when he'd silenced his alarm. Explosion rocks Seattle suburb. Gas leak suspected in overnight blaze. He tapped it, scanning the headline and the first paragraph. A massive explosion leveled a home in Renton, just outside Seattle, at 3 a.m. today, leaving 2 critically injured. Authorities suspect a gas leak sparked the fire, which spread rapidly due to dry conditions. Renton, Seattle. The pieces didn't fit, yet they did in a way that made his blood run cold. Jake stood, pacing the bedroom, the hardwood creaking under his bare feet. Kate had lied. Atlanta was 2,000 miles from Seattle. Why? His phone buzzed again, another voicemail from the same number. He hit play, bracing himself. Dr. Reyes again. "Mr. Miller, we've identified Kate through her ID and emergency contact info. She was found at a residence with another individual, a male, both severely injured. Time is critical. Please call." Another individual. A male. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Was she cheating? The thought felt absurd, yet clawed at him, undeniable now. He sank onto the bed, staring at the framed photo on the nightstand. Him, Kate, and the kids at Lake Michigan last summer. All smiles. His Apple Watch beeped. Mindfulness time. Take a deep breath. He ripped it off and tossed it across the room. No amount of breathing was going to calm this storm. He needed answers. Kate's purse was gone, but her laptop sat on the kitchen counter. She'd left it behind, claiming she wanted a tech-free weekend. Bullshit. He grabbed it, flipped it open, and hit a password screen. She'd changed it. Kate, the woman who forgot her own email logins half the time, had locked him out. But Jake wasn't an engineer for nothing. He rummaged through the kitchen junk drawer, pens, receipts, a sticky note with M1 Ethan scrawled in her loopy handwriting. He typed it in. The screen unlocked. Her email was still open, browser tabs glaring back at him. One subject line stopped him cold. "Can't wait to see you. Sent 3 days ago from an Ethan Carter." Jake's chest tightened. Ethan Carter. The name rang a bell. Kate's college boyfriend, the hotshot law student she'd dated before him. The guy who dumped her for some sorority girl. Was this that Ethan? He clicked the email. Kate, flight lands at 6 p.m. Friday. I'll pick you up. Jen's in Portland till Monday. Perfect timing. Miss you already. Jake's vision blurred with rage. Yen? A wife? This bastard was married to? He scrolled further. More emails, flirty, secretive. One from Lauren, Kate's sister. Don't worry, I'll cover for you. Dad's in on it too. Have fun. Her family knew. They'd all lied to him. The phone rang. Harborview again. He answered, voice shaking. This is Jake Miller. The nurse on the line didn't waste time. Mr. Miller, Kate's stable, but critical. Third-degree burns over 60% of her body. The man with her, Ethan Carter, is in a coma. The house they were in exploded. Gas leak, they think. We need your consent for treatment. Jake's mouth went dry. She told me she was in Atlanta, he said, testing them. A pause. Sir, she was found in Renton. We're sure it's her. He hung up, numb. The kids' laughter drifted from the hall. They were awake. Jake had maybe an hour before they'd ask where Mommy was. He poured coffee, hands unsteady, and sat at the counter, staring at the laptop. Kate had betrayed him. Ethan Carter was the key. And now they were both clinging to life, their dirty secret blown apart, literally. But Jake wasn't done. He'd find out everything, and he'd make sure they paid. Jake Miller stood at the gate of O'Hare International Airport, gripping Ethan and Mia's hands as travelers swirled around them. It was Sunday afternoon, and the kids' duffel bags were slung over his shoulder, their chatter about Aunt Sarah's promised pizza night a faint hum in his ears. His own carry-on held essentials, and Kate's laptop, now a ticking time bomb of evidence. Yesterday's discoveries had hardened his resolve. Kate's months-long affair with Ethan Carter, her family's complicity, and Jen Carter's call proposing an alliance. The 9:15 a.m. flight to Seattle was boarding in 20 minutes. He'd drop the kids with Sarah in Evanston, then head straight to the plane. Every second counted. His phone buzzed. Harborview again. He stepped aside, hushing Mia's question about Mickey Mouse, and answered. Jake Miller. Dr. Reyes' voice cut through. Mr. Miller, Kate's out of surgery. She's stable but critical. Severe lung damage. We've got her in a coma to manage pain. Ethan Carter's still unconscious. His vitals are slipping. Any chance you're coming? Jake's throat tightened. Tomorrow, he lied. Kids to sort out first. She sighed. Okay, call if you're delayed. He hung up, mind racing. Stable but critical. Slipping vitals. Part of him wanted them to pull through, just so they'd face what came next. Sarah arrived at 8:30 a.m., her SUV idling curbside. You look like hell, she said, hugging the kids. Jake forced a smile. Rough weekend. I'll explain later. She nodded, sensing the weight, and drove off with Ethan and Mia waving from the back seat. Free, Jake boarded the plane, settling into a window seat as Chicago shrank below. Jen Carter's words echoed. We've got leverage, insurance, assets. They don't get to ruin us. He'd meet her at a coffee shop near the hospital at 1 p.m. But he wasn't just walking in blind. On the flight, he reopened Kate's laptop, using the airline Wi-Fi. A new email had landed in her inbox overnight. From Lauren, her sister. Kate, Dad's freaking out. Saw the explosion on the news. Call us ASAP. Too late for that. He dug deeper, finding a draft she'd never sent, dated 2 weeks ago. Jake, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Ethan's a mistake. I'll end it. His stomach churned. She'd known it was wrong, but kept going. Then, a bombshell. A bank statement synced to her cloud. A joint account with Ethan Carter opened 3 months ago. $20,000 deposited. Withdrawals for hotels, flights. They weren't just cheating. They were planning something bigger. A new life? The plane landed at SeaTac at 11:45 a.m. Jake grabbed a rental car and drove to Renton, the explosion site, before meeting Jen. Charred rubble stretched across a cul-de-sac, yellow tape flapping in the wind. A news van lingered. A reporter's voice drifted. Investigators now suspect foul play, possible tampering with the gas line. Foul play? Jake's pulse quickened. Jen's PI story flashed back. Had she known more than she'd let on? He snapped photos, then sped to the coffee shop, arriving at 12:55 p.m. Jen Carter waited at a corner table, blonde hair pulled back, eyes red-rimmed but sharp. She was 36, polished even in crisis, lawyer's wife vibes. Jake? She asked, standing. He nodded, sliding into the seat. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, pushing a coffee toward him. I've seen worse, he replied, setting the laptop down. Found a joint account. Kate and Ethan, $20,000. They were planning to run. Jen's face darkened. That bastard. He drained our savings last month. Said it was for investments. I've got photos from my PI. Enough to bury him in court if he wakes up. Jake leaned in. News says the explosion might not be an accident. You said you didn't do it. Sure about that? Jen's eyes narrowed. I wanted to hurt him, not kill him. My PI tailed them Thursday. He saw someone else at the house Friday. Male, mid-40s, left before Kate arrived. Jake frowned. Boo, no idea. PI lost him in traffic. A new player. Jake pulled up the bank statement. Look, $5,000 withdrawn Friday morning. Cash. Could have paid someone. Yen Paulette. You think they hired a fixer? Or someone did it to them? Before he could answer, his phone rang. Paul, Kate's dad. Jake silenced it, but a voicemail popped up instantly. He played it on speaker, low. Jake, it's Paul. I know you're pissed. Lauren told me everything. Kate begged us to lie. She said you'd never understand. Call me, damn it. Jens Smirket. Family of the year. Jake deleted it. They're dead to me. But this fixer angle, let's dig. Yen nodded. I've got Ethan's laptop at our condo. Remote access. Let's go. They drove to her downtown Seattle condo, a sleek high-rise Ethan's lawyer money had bought. Jen logged in, pulling up his files. Amid legal briefs, an encrypted folder, KC plan. Kate Carter? Jake's gut twisted as Jen cracked it. Password. Seattle 2025. Inside, the document, divorce timeline. Ethan's notes detailed splitting assets, leaving Jen nothing, and moving with Kate to Vancouver. A lease agreement, signed last week. They'd meant to disappear after this weekend. Then, a text log. Ethan to an unknown number, Friday, 2 a.m. It's set. She's here. Do it. Reply. Done by dawn. Jake and Jen locked eyes. He hired someone, she whispered. Or someone double-crossed him. The hospital called. Dr. Reyes. Jake, Kate's awake. She's asking for you. Jake froze. Awake. Talking. The game had just flipped. Jake Miller gripped the steering wheel of the rental car as he and Jen Carter sped toward Harborview Medical Center. It was Sunday, 3:47 p.m., the Seattle skyline a blur of steel and glass against a drizzle-soaked sky. Kate was awake, asking for him. The call from Dr. Reyes had flipped everything. Hours ago, she'd been in a coma, teetering on the edge. Now, she had a voice, and Jake wasn't sure he wanted to hear it. Jen sat beside him, Ethan's laptop on her lap, her fingers tapping nervously. She's awake, but he's not, she muttered, eyes on the screen. If she talks, we've got her. The condo search had unearthed Ethan's KC plan, a roadmap to divorce Jen, drain their accounts, and flee with Kate to Vancouver. The cryptic texts, it's set. Do it. Hinted at a hired hand, maybe the explosion's architect. But who? Jake's mind churned. Kate's draft apology email, the joint account, her family's lies, it all pointed to a woman ready to abandon him and the kids. Yet now, burned and broken, she wanted him. Why? Guilt? Fear? Or a last play? They parked at the hospital, the antiseptic smell hitting as they stepped inside. Dr. Reyes met them in the lobby, her scrubs wrinkled, face drawn. She's lucid, but weak, she said, leading them to the ICU. 5 minutes max, she's on heavy painkillers. Jake nodded, glancing at Jen. You're coming too? She smirked. Wouldn't miss it. They followed Reyes past beeping monitors and curtained beds to Kate's room. The sight stopped Jake cold. His wife, swathed in bandages, tubes snaking from her arms, her face a patchwork of raw red and white. Her eyes fluttered open, locking on him. Jake, she rasped, voice a dry whisper. He stood at the foot of the bed, Jen beside him, arms crossed. Kate, he said flatly, you're supposed to be in Atlanta. Her lips trembled. I'm sorry. I messed up. Jake's fists clenched. Messed up? You've been screwing Ethan Carter for months. You and him had a bank account, a lease in Vancouver. You're going to leave us. Her eyes widened, then darted to Jen. You're his wife? Jen stepped forward, voice ice. Yeah, the one he planned to ditch. Like Jake. What's your excuse? Kate coughed, wincing. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Ethan said we'd start over, away from everything. I was stupid. I thought I loved him. Jake laughed, bitter. You thought? What about Ethan and Mia? Me? Tears welled in her eyes. I was going to tell you, after this weekend. I swear. Jen cut in. Save it. Ethan's texts say you two hired someone. Do it, he wrote. The explosion. Was it your exit plan? Kate's face crumpled. No, I didn't know. Ethan said he'd handle something. Make it clean. I thought he meant a divorce. Jake's blood ran cold. Handle something? The house blew up with you in it, Kate. Who'd he call? She shook her head, frantic. I don't know. He was on the phone Friday night, whispering. I was drunk, half asleep. Next thing, I'm waking up here. Jen pulled out her phone, showing the PI's photo, the mystery man at the house. This him? Kate squinted, then gasped. That's Paul's friend, Rick, from Jacksonville. Jake froze. Your dad's friend? Kate nodded weakly. Ex-cop. Shady guy. Dad used him for odd jobs. The room spun. Paul, Kate's father, tied to this? Jake grabbed his phone, replaying Paul's voicemail. Kate begged us to lie. She said you'd never understand. Had Paul orchestrated the explosion to stop her or punish her? Jen whispered. If Rick's involved, this wasn't an accident. Dr. Reyes poked her head in. Time's up. Jake leaned close to Kate, voice low. You're lucky you're alive, but you're done lying. If Ethan wakes up, you're both finished. Kate sobbed as they left, her pleas fading behind the curtain. In the hall, Jen dialed her PI. Check a Rick, ex-cop, Jacksonville ties. They fussed. Jake's phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Kids are fine. Call when you can. He exhaled, then faced Jen. Paul's in this. I'm calling him. He dialed, speaker on. Paul picked up, voice shaky. Jake. Thank God. How's Kate? Jake's tone was steel. Alive. Talking. Said Rick, your buddy, was at the house. What did you do, Paul? Silence. Then a stammer. Rick? No, he was just helping her move some stuff. Furniture. That's all. Yen scoffed. Furniture? In a gas explosion? Try again. Paul's voice cracked. Look, Kate called me Thursday. Hysterical. Said Ethan was rushing her. She wanted out. I told Rick to scare him off. Break a window, maybe. Not this. Jake's eyes narrowed. Scare him off? The house is ash, Paul. Kate's burned. Ethan's dying. You hired a psycho. Paul choked. I didn't know. Rick said he'd handle it, discreetly. I swear. Jen cut in. You're an accessory, old man. Hope you've got a lawyer. Jake hung up, fury simmering. He's lying, covering his ass. They stepped outside, rain pelting the pavement. Jen's PI called back. Rick Tanner, 46, ex-Jacksonville PD. Fired for bribery. Spotted in Seattle Friday. Rental car near Renton. History of arson jobs. Jake's jaw tightened. Arson. Paul sicked him on them. Yen nodded. And botched it. Ethan's due a text. Maybe he thought Rick was just staging a breakup. Instead, he torched them both. Jake stared at the hospital. Kate's awake. She can testify if she survives. Ethan's the wild card. A cop car pulled up, 2 officers approaching. Jake Miller? Jen Carter? One asked. Jake tensed. Yeah. Fire marshals got questions. Explosions officially suspicious. Come with us. Jen shot Jake a look, part fear, part fire. They're on to Rick, she whispered. We've got the upper hand. Jake nodded. Kate's confession, Paul's slip, Rick's trail, it was all aligning. The cheaters would pay, not with blood, but with truth. Jake Miller sat in a sterile Seattle police station interview room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. It was Sunday, 7:12 p.m., and the air smelled of burnt coffee and tension. Jen Carter sat beside him, her posture rigid, Ethan's laptop closed on the table. 2 fire marshals, Detectives Lopez and Hayes, faced them, notepads out. The hospital visit had flipped the script. Kate awake, confessing, Paul scrambling, Rick Tanner, the ex-cop arsonist, now the key. Jake's hands rested on his knees, steady despite the storm inside. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. Lopez, a stocky man with a buzz cut, spoke first. We got prelims from the Renton explosion. Gas line was cut, deliberate. Prints on the valve match a Rick Tanner, known felon. You two know him. Jake kept his voice even. Kate, my wife, ID'd him. Friend of her dad, Paul Grayson. She said he was at the house Friday. Jen added, my PI tracked him too. Rental car, near the scene. Hayes, lean and graying, leaned forward. Why is an ex-cop torching a lawyer's house with your spouses inside? Jake slid the laptop forward. Ethan and Kate were cheating, planning to run off. Paul claims he hired Rick to scare Ethan. Went wrong. Jen opened the laptop, pulling up Ethan's KC plan and the texts. It's set. Do it. She pointed. Ethan thought Rick was staging something. Maybe a fake break-in. Rick had other ideas. Lopez frowned. Paul Grayson's on record saying he only wanted a warning. You buying that? Jake's jaw tightened. No. Paul's a liar. Covered Kate's affair for months. He panicked when she wanted out. Yin nodded. Ethan's text confirmed he coordinated with someone. Paul's the link. Hayes scribbled, then looked up. Kate's talking. Corroborates Tanner was there. Says Ethan was on edge, paranoid. She didn't know about the gas. Jake's stomach twisted. Kate, clueless or complicit? Didn't matter. She'd still betrayed him. Lopez stood. We got Tanner in custody. Nabbed at a motel an hour ago. Prince, Gaskin in his trunk. He's clamming up, but Paul's next. You two are free to go. Stay local. Jake nodded, relief warring with rage. The law was closing in. Outside, rain had stopped, the night air crisp. Jen checked her phone. Hospital update. Ethan's crashing. Docs don't think he'll make it. Jake exhaled. Kate, holding on. Barely. They walked to the car, silent until Jen spoke. What's your endgame, Jake? He stared at the skyline. Divorce her. Take the kids. Let the courts bury her with Ethan's mess. Insurance debts. You, Jens Smirket. Same. Ethan's firm's toast. Client's jumping ship. I'll sue his estate for every dime. Monday morning, Jake visited Kate alone. She lay frail, monitors beeping, eyes sunken. Jake, she whispered. I didn't mean, he cut her off. You did. Months of lies. Ethan's dying, Paul's busted. Rick's confessing. It's over. Tears streaked her bandages. The kids, they're mine now, he said cold. You don't get to break us and walk away. He left, her sobs fading behind him. At the station, Paul was in cuffs, ranting, I didn't mean it. Rick had flipped, admitted Paul paid him $10,000 to fix Ethan, but he'd overdone it for kicks. Case closed. Jake flew back to Chicago Tuesday, Ethan and Mia waiting with Sarah. Where's Mommy? Mia asked, clutching a stuffed bunny. Jake knelt, voice soft. She's sick, sweetie. Staying with doctors a while. They'd learn the truth later. Gentler, filtered. Kate lingered in the hospital, facing charges if she survived. Conspiracy, fraud. Ethan died Wednesday, 2 a.m. Jen texted, it's done. Filing today. Jake replied, same. Kids first. Insurance payouts came. Kate's to him, Ethan's to Jen. Clean legal wins. Weeks later, Jake moved the kids to a new house. Smaller, brighter, near a park. Sarah helped unpack, eyeing him. You okay? He nodded, watching Ethan kick a soccer ball with Mia. Getting there. Jen called that night. Her divorce finalized. Ethan's firm bankrupt. Vancouver's off the table, she joked. Florida instead? Jake chuckled. Maybe. After the dust settles. No cruise, no fling. Just two people burned but standing. Paul got 5 years. Accessory to arson. Rick, 15, attempted murder. Kate recovered enough for trial, pleaded guilty to fraud, got probation, too frail for jail. Jake cut her off, her family too. The kids thrived, resilient, their laughter his anchor. At the park, a single mom, Lisa, smiled at him over coffee one day. Rough year? She asked, nodding at his story, edited sympathetic. Yeah, he said. But we're good now. A spark, cautious but real. The cheaters paid, legally, fully. Jake didn't need vengeance. He had victory. Life moved on, and he'd make damn sure it was better.